Colleagues, I rise today to move the adoption of AOVS's 12th report, which deals with the implementation of the risk-based internal audit plan. As advised in the report, the AOVS committee has adopted the 3-year risk-based internal audit plan. This represents the latest stage in our journey to implement a robust internal audit function for the Senate. As you may remember, the AOVS committee was created in October 2020. The committee's first endeavor was to recruit 2 highly qualified executive-level candidates through a fair and transparent process to sit as external members on the committee, a first in the Senate's history. Madame Hélène Forte and Mr. Robert Plamondon were appointed as external members of the committee on June 8, 2021, when the Senate adopted the committee's 5th report. The committee then set out about establishing its governance structure. This culminated with the Senate Audit Oversight Charter. The Charter sets out the governance, administrative practices, and responsibilities of your committee. The Charter came into effect on June 23, 2022, along with consequential changes to the rules and Senate administrative rules, including an independent budget process for audit and oversight as detailed in the committee's 6th report. The next step for the committee is to recruit a chief audit executive to lead the internal audit function. In October 2023, Mr. Amipal Manchanda was hired with the main task to draft a multi-year risk-based internal audit charter. As best practices dictate, the plan was drafted following a detailed analysis of key corporate accounts in the Senate, as well as a series of consultation with senators and officials from the Senate administration. Colleagues, the report before you is the next step for Senate to enable its committee and the chief audit executive to implement the first year of the plan. Ideally, the report should be adopted before the summer adjournment to enable your committee to make progress during the summer season by starting the process of hiring 2 new resources and launching the competitive procurement process for 2 audits planned for this year. Colleagues, your committee, which for the purposes of integrity, independence, transparency, and accountability is authorized under Rule 12-7 open bracket 4 bracket to act as on its own initiatives on certain matters, including retaining the services of internal and external auditors and overseeing such audits, and to report at least annually with observations and recommendations to the Senate, and now reports as follows. Your committee will support the next steps in implementing the risk-based internal audit plan with the aim of ensuring that the work of internal audit is positioned to provide evaluation and analysis on the existence, effectiveness, and adequacy of risk management, control, and governance processes in the Senate. For the current fiscal year, your committee has approved the execution of 2 audits under the responsibility of the Chief Audit Executive. The first audit is a review of contracting data analytics. The objective will be to identify trends in procurement and analyze procurement activity using data analytics. The scope of this audit will include procurement activity within the Senate and the Senate administration from 2019 to 2024, and will consider trends in contract spending, sole source contracts, amendments in multiple contracts to individual vendors. This engagement will provide a limited level of assurance. The second audit is on the financial management control framework of the Senate. The objective will be to pass or assess the design and effectiveness of the financial management control framework over the expenditures of senators' offices, and of the Senate administration. The scope of the audit will include all expenditures, including expenses of senators' offices, and the Senate administration, but excluding those related to personnel, salaries, benefits, etc., and to parliamentary partners. Procedures will include mapping the expenditure control framework and testing a sample of expenditures to validate the design and effectiveness of the control framework. This engagement will provide a high level of audit assurance. Your committee's budget is $313,000 for the fiscal year ending March 31, 2025, which was allocated as part of the Senate's main estimates process. Of that envelope, $120,000 is budgeted for the remuneration of the committee's 2 external members, as per the first report adopted by the Senate on December 9, 2021. An additional $28,600 is allocated to the contract for the external audit of the Senate's financial statements. The committee has also authorized a transfer of $50,000 to the Office of the Chief Audit Executive for the remuneration of a casual employee and $1,277 for training purposes. Your committee intends to transfer the remaining $113,000 from the allocated budget for this fiscal year to the Office of the Chief Audit Executive to undertake specified audit work. Concurrently, your committee is seeking the authorization to create 2 new full-time equivalent FTE positions, an audit manager and a senior auditor. Your committee is of the view that these 2 positions are critical for the implementation and sustainability of the Iranian audit plan. By integrating both contracted services and permanent staff, your committee aims to maintain a high standard of quality and efficiency while ensuring oversight and compliance throughout the organization. Therefore, to facilitate an effective audit and oversight function that can carry out the 3-year risk-based internal audit plan as approved by your committee, and to ensure that the Senate's internal audit function is properly staffed, your committee makes the following recommendations. 1, the 2 new permanent FTE positions, 1 audit manager and 1 senior auditor with anticipated classification at MMG01 and SEN 10 levels, respectively, be created above the FTE cap approved by the Standing Committee on the Internal Economy, Budgets and Administration, otherwise CEBA, in the Office of the Chief Audit Executive, with funding requirements as follows. For the current fiscal year 24-25, estimate $90,000 to be funded from anticipated Senator's Office budget surpluses, and B, with permanent funding for subsequent years for the 2 new positions, estimated at $249,000, to be confirmed as per results of the classification process, to be requested as part of the 25-26 main estimate process. That performance pay budget for the new FTE at the management level, MMG01, be allocated to the corporate account at an estimated amount of $4,670, succeeded plus rating at 7% for 6 months. For the current fiscal year 24-25, to be funded from anticipated Senator's Office budget surpluses and with permanent funding from estimated at $9,300 for subsequent years be requested as part of the 25-26 main estimates. You will find a summary of the estimated funds required to implement the first year of the risk-based internal audit plan appended to the report. Based on the experience of executing the first year of the plan, your committee will follow with assessments for the second and third year's funding. Colleagues, your AOVS committee and its Chief Audit Executive are ready to go and prepare for launch over the summer, issuing RFPs for the contracting out of the first 2 audits and recruiting 2 new permanent financial auditors. On behalf of your Audit and Oversight Committee, I respectfully ask you to adopt the report, and let's get this Boeing going. Thank you.
Senator, you have a question, Senator Deakin? Senator Klyne, will you take a question?
I will take the question.
Senator Deakin, Nova Scotia.
Thank you, Speaker. Senator Klyne, could you remind the Chamber when the Auditor General made its report? Was it 2015, recommending that the Senate established independent oversight of its operations?
Yeah, I believe that was the firm recommendation from the Auditor General following the internal audit, I would suppose we'll call it. And I see a lot of shutters already. But yes, we followed that, and the Senate approved it, and with this, the Audit and Oversight Committee was established, and they proceeded to with preparing their framework for governance and for a work charter that was also approved in the Senate, and furthering approval of 2 external members to join the committee, which has been of great value, followed up by providing further reports to the committee, which have been all approved up to this point by the Senate, and now asking the Senate to approve this report.